What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Button Investor podcast with Tucker Merrihew and myself, Cole Rue Johnson. Today, we're going into a topic that everyone will benefit from because we're all on this carousel during our career. And what we're trying to do for you today, and the name of the episode is simplifying off-market lead generation. So you can leave this episode really understanding what marketing is in this business, how to choose marketing channels, and going through the pros and cons of each. So we'll get right into the episode. Well, Tucker, I know we run a lead generation company. So we have a lot of frontline accounts of people's theology around marketing in this business. And it's clear to me over the years that real estate investors just aren't marketers, right? None of us come from a marketing background, at least most of us. None of us have worked in the corporate world in marketing, at least a lot of us. And so we have to it's a trial by error, understanding just the basic laws of marketing. So I'll let you kick this episode off with what you think kind of the biggest pain point on the marketing side of the business is for people. And then I'll go into mine after that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest pain point, at least in how it relates to the title of this episode, in my mind, is that, most people don't fully understand the lead channel or the marketing channel that they choose and the types of leads that will come from it. Right. And so, not all marketing channels produce the same types of leads. And so if you don't really understand the exact lead type that you're most of the time pulling from that marketing channel, you really don't know, or you haven't mastered the ability to interact with that lead because you think they're all the same. And they're not all the same because you're connecting with these people at different points in their own journey to potentially selling their property, right? And so I think it's super important to understand that. Otherwise, the pain point is you're probably wasting money on marketing, by not having that specific information and really engaging properly with these different lead types, depending on which marketing channel you choose.
Yeah. I think to press on that for a second, we've obviously, Tucker and myself, firsthand have worked with hundreds, if not thousands of investors. We've done hundreds of deals. We've been around, I think, long enough. And the one thing I've realized is there is no marketing channel that's a silver bullet. What I've always realized is just where, like Tucker said, it's where do you want to catch people in their journey? And that is not the same for every marketing channel. Like not every cold call lead you get is going to be at the same point in the journey, not every pay-per-click, not every mail. So there's no like one size fits all, but typically speaking, everyone has a different form of communication they'll respond to. Like me, if someone sent me a direct mail piece to my house, I'm not going to call them off that. If I saw an online ad, I'm probably not going to click on it. If someone called me, like I keep my phone on do not disturb. For me personally, where people normally get me is a text. That's normally what I'll see, and then I'll eventually respond or call them back. And so every single human on this earth has a form of communication they prefer. In our history as a company, we've done a lot of deals where we texted back and forth, never even got on the phone. And so you have to realize that we could have the same list of sellers, market to them differently, and do different deals. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like there's no marketing channel that encapsulates everything. So I think we start with from the top with the pros and cons of each. But at least the main ones. Like we're not going to go into TV ads and radio ads. Probably those are classified as inbound leads. But
no, Tucker, we'll keep it simple. Yeah,
you've done enough mailing and other types of marketing channels. What are the pros and cons of inbound versus outbound in your head? And again, you guys listening, inbound are things, mail, Facebook ads, TV ads, radio, pay-per-click, pay-per-lead, and then outbounds, cold calling, texting, things of that nature.
Yeah, and to make it even simpler, like marketing that creates inbound leads, it's just you're paying for stuff out in the world to make enough of an impact on people that they reach out to you, right? Outbound is you're proactive in trying to start a conversation with somebody. And so the money you're spending isn't to put stuff out in the world, it's to put people to work or technology to work to create that kind of outbound effort that then creates a conversation, right? So, they're just very different. The like PPC, for example, like most people, because I think this will be good for people to just kind of understand the stark difference in lead types, right? So like PPC, usually people go online and they say, sell my house now, or whatever the keyword phrase is that gets searched the most now. And then like 15 companies come up that, the first 10 are all paying for ads attached to that keyword phrase that they're searching for, right? And so at the point that somebody is going to take that action, look that up, and then start clicking on these companies that are paying for the ads to be, so that they're at the top of the page and they're putting their information in, they're like ready to go in terms of selling. Now, whether or not they're willing to sell for a discount or not, who knows, but they're ready to go when it comes to selling. And so if you get one of those PPC ads, a lead that comes in from your ad, like you got to call them back like right away, because they probably put that information in on 3 or 4 or 5 different, companies. And so it's kind of the early bird gets the worm on that one, or at least the first opportunity to buy the house. Direct mail, it's a little bit more of a slow burn, right? Like you mail, your farm list or whatever list it is that you're choosing to mail, and you put that out into the world. And, maybe your first round of mailings, you get like 2 calls. You never know when they're going to come in. You don't know who on the list is going to actually call. And, then you do another one and you get a few more and a few more. But it's predictable, but it's unpredictable in terms of who you're going to have conversations with and when. I mean, you do enough of it over time, you can kind of average it out, but it's still unpredictable in comparison to, and PPC is too, because you can't control when people actually are going to go on there and search and then click on your company, right? But the outbound marketing, you are proactively starting a conversation with people. So it's predictable how many people you're going to get on the phone. We know that. We know those stats, right? You call this many numbers, you're going to get this many people on the phone, you're going to have this many conversations. And generally, we're going to produce this many leads based on one day of calling, right? Depending on market, of course. So it becomes a much more predictable, lead source in that regard. But the difference is that you're calling people that may not have even thought about going online and searching sell my house now, that haven't, gotten your direct mail piece and sat it on the counter and thought about calling you for a few months, and then they finally pick it up and call you. You're kind of leapfrogging in time. Like think of it, it's almost like a marketing time capsule, right? You're taking yourself and you're fast forwarding this time that the conversation maybe had that they want to sell their house by doing the outbound stuff and kind of forcing that conversation. Now, there's 2 sides to that sword, right? Like one is, well, maybe they're not ready to sell yet at all, but you're having a conversation with them, so you think it's a bad lead. Not necessarily the case, because you fast forwarded that conversation maybe too far into the future, but it still gives you the opportunity to have those conversations and kind of build rapport. And then the other one, of course, is somebody that may be on the verge just randomly of looking to sell for whatever reason, and you kind of beat everybody to the punch because of this outbound marketing effort. So that's to kind of break it down so that everybody kind of understands what we're talking about. Hopefully that helps.
And I'm going to double click and go down a rabbit hole here for a second, because I see so many people that are very resentful of any given marketing channel. And a lot of times what I see is someone that they do 5 or 6 deals from buying from wholesalers if they're flippers, or from working with agents. And they say, man, I'm going to turn on my marketing engine. And what they do is they say, hey, I've done 7 deals. I'm going to go spend 10 grand a month in pay-per-click. And the reality is, you guys, is time in the seat is a real thing. Reps on the phone, underwriting, working with sellers, sitting on couches in living rooms is a real thing. Like you have to have a lot of reps under your belt. And so one of the main pros of inbound marketing is a lot of times you're catching people later in their decision-making cycle. And so you're not a lot of times going to have to wait 6 months for them to make a decision. The cons are, one to me, is there's a low margin of error. So if you aren't really in tune with yourself as a salesperson, you don't have a really good sales process, you don't have the reps and the time in the seat, and you're spending an inbound lead lower end with mail, $100-ish a lead, sometimes more, upper end with pay-per-click, $500+ a lead in some markets in the country. Every opportunity, every phone call is somewhere in the range of $150 to $550. And so if you don't have that time in the seat and that confidence, the margin of error is low, and you can blow up your marketing budget and your cash reserves very quickly. I've seen that happen a ton. Obviously, so pros are later in the decision-making cycle. A lot of times it doesn't take as long to get a deal done. The first con is low margin of error. The second con that people also don't think about on an inbound lead is they're not loyal, right? When they go online and they type in 7 different, they click on 7 different ads, you're not the only person that they're talking to. Now, there's things you can do to improve that. You can answer the phone right away. You can be on it. You can put the time in the seat in. So there's things you can do to improve that. Outbound, the cons are typically they're a little earlier in the decision-making cycle. Not all of them. You will get 1 call closes like you will at volume at any marketing channel, but a lot of them are earlier in the decision-making cycle. They haven't gone online and clicked on pay-per-click websites. They're a little earlier on. The pros are when you catch them early and you build a real relationship and you build rapport, they know who you are, you build credibility. They might shop with 2 or 3 companies, but a lot of times you build a really strong relationship. And that's when we'll see a deal that we've been working for 2 years be a $60,000, $70,000 deal, because we built that relationship over time with them. And that's the ultimate pro of cold calling. And you still will get your quick closes, but what you do is you build this pipeline of more loyal prospects that aren't exactly, a lot of them never even get to the point of shopping because they're actually talking to you now. A lot of them will never even go on Google and type that in. So those are the two main differences I see in inbound and outbound. I think something that we should tap on too is conversion. And Tucker, what have you seen? Because you've done a lot. I know we both done a lot of both, but in terms of converting inbound versus outbound opportunities, what are some of the things that you've seen that you think are valuable to people when they choose their marketing channel? Because I think everyone's best marketing channel depends on the business they're trying to build. If you want to be a one-man show forever and you never want to build a team, it might not be a good idea to have 20 cold call leads a day come in, right? So what is your take on that and people matching up the business that they want to run to marketing channel?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most important point, really. When we all start out, I think we're all just looking for value, right? That's the only thing that we really are looking for. And when you run a wholesaling business, generally you're just looking for value. And so if you're looking for value, you can do, more mass marketing, right? And so, cold calling would be what's called a mass marketing approach because you have to have enough data and you're basically calling so many people that you're not narrowing it down to specific houses and specific neighborhoods. You're kind of canvas marketing a lot of different areas and a lot of different houses and homeowners. And so, which is fine if value is what you're looking for and you're fine with that, which most people are. Now, the challenge with PPC is you can't really control exactly where the leads come in. You're still looking for value, but you're not pulling the data. You can kind of put in like the parameters of where you want the ads to show up. But you're paying a lot for probably some areas that you don't care if there's value in the lead or not, right? So, that's kind of the negative there. But you're also, that would be, let's call it a shotgun approach too. You can't really narrow down where that value is going to come from exactly. Like you sort of can, but not exactly. And if you did it too exact, then it's not worth running that channel. Direct mail, you can run it two different ways. You can run it just purely looking for value, which a lot of people do. They pull huge lists and they canvas, entire zip codes. And they do that over and over and over again. And, if you do that long enough and you build some brand equity in the market, eventually you get, a steady stream of inbound leads. Now, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to buy their house, but you get a steady stream of inbound leads within the areas that you've pulled those, that data and you're sending your mail. The other way to do direct mail, and this is how, we did it for years after we kind of refined what our business was, right? We initially started and we were just looking for value. That's all that we cared about. And then as we kind of climbed the real estate ladder, we decided, okay, well, we want to start renovating houses just in higher end areas because the margins were better and we were vertically integrated enough to be able to do those types of projects. And then we got into building new construction and we got into building high end new construction in really nice parts of town. And so as we got further and further up the ladder, we weren't necessarily just looking for value. We were looking for value and opportunity within a very specific area. And sometimes it was a lot of times it was very specific properties within a specific area. And so we would target just those. And so for my business at that point, blanket cold calling for just trying to find value, it didn't align, right? But that doesn't mean that it doesn't align with a bunch of other people out there. That's what they're looking for. So you really have to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And if you're willing to, wholesale or renovate houses, in most of your city, then it's a fantastic model. But if you're, run a model like I did or do, maybe it's not the best in terms of that. But most people don't do the model that I do. So that hopefully that kind of breaks down the difference of how you use them. It's kind of, you're casting a net, it's shotgun approach versus sniper approach, right?
Yeah. And I think, I think the one thing too is identifying like what kind of team you want to build. Cause I think there's a case even, James Danner, one of them where he does a lot of the spec home stuff. But he also has a big team. And so he wants to keep his team fed and keep wholesale deals flowing while he does their ground up stuff. And so he kind of does both as well. So there's no really that's the good thing and bad thing about real estate is there's no one size fits all, but two, that keeps people tinkering and trying things for sometimes too long. And anything can make money. And it's just about first choosing what your ideal business is and really what your ideal life looks like. And not building yourself a prison, and then aligning and identifying a marketing channel or multiple that support that. For me, and historically in my business, we want to do as many freaking wholesale deals as possible. So we, cold calling was a great fit. When we added on pay-per-click, we added on mail because we couldn't get enough of it. I think one thing to point out here, you guys, is just basics like understanding of marketing channels. One is if you're going to test a marketing channel at all in this business, it's a month's not long enough. We've always given a marketing channel about 6 months before making any kind of decision or looking at the data, because every marketing channel is a different sales process, a different type of lead you have to get used to. And our clients that are with us for years for cold calling versus guys that are with us for 3 months, that's the biggest thing they understand. It just takes time to get used to it and to kind of marinate in that marketing channel. The second piece of that is, you guys, 9 out of 10 times in this business, your marketing channel is not your issue. So if you're struggling to close leads, the reality is there is companies in your market with those same exact leads, whether it's pay-per-click, direct mail, cold calling, that are doing deals. So 90% of the time, you don't have a marketing issue. If you have leads coming in, you need to look internally in your business. And we put out other episodes on sales. We're not going to deep dive into that rabbit hole today, but I think that's something that people should also pay attention to is, don't just turn something on, wait 4 weeks and expect to know if it's going to work or not. Measure your business in a 3, 6, 9 month timeline, because the reality is the sales cycle, the cash conversion cycle, unless, obviously Tucker, yours is much longer because you're building ground up or you're doing long-term kind of higher end rehabs. But even if you're doing easy, quick turns and flips or wholesales, it's still going to be 3, 6, 9 months until you really understand your cash conversion cycle. So that's something I wanted to add there too. Tucker, anything else on that topic?
I just think it's super important. You definitely have to give any marketing channel time. I mean, because the way that I've always looked at it is like, instead of being a jack of all trades and a master of none, like commit to one, learn it inside out and backwards, learn, how to convert those leads as best possible, what that lead avatar generally looks like. And then once you feel like you've got a real good grasp on that channel and you want to continue to grow your business, add another one, right? And so it's the people that try and do 2 or 3 marketing channels at the same time that haven't ever done any of them or haven't done any of them well yet. That's usually a recipe for disaster, because then you're upping the amount of marketing spend that's going out the door every month too. And if you're not converting on anything, that's a great way to flame out pretty quick in the business, right? You're just burning up all your cash. So, mastering one before you move on to another. And maybe you master one, you decide that's not for me. Great, no big deal. But you always want to master one before you move on to the other. And they all do work, like you said. People do deals with every single marketing channel that we brought up here. It's not like they can't work. It's a matter of whether it matches your business and whether you've committed to it long enough to learn how to actually, take those leads in, build rapport with them, convert the ones that can be converted, and continue following up with those that have somewhat of a promise down the line.
And it is really hard to find something that works in business. Like, I think that's the thing people miss too, is like, sometimes it just takes a year or two to find your marketing channel and get used to it and get your reps under you. And so one of the things I always tell people is, if you're already doing 2 or 3 deals a month, if you're wholesaling, or you're buying 5 flips a quarter, if you're flipping, or whatever it is, but you're doing a substantial amount of deals with a certain marketing channel, the reality is, like, if I was buying 10 houses a year from cold calling in Oklahoma City, there is probably, between everyone else that's cold calling, at least another 90 homes that year, or 100, probably a lot more than that are being bought with cold calling. And so usually saturating a channel takes a lot longer than you think. For us, we scaled up to about 50 cold callers before we started another marketing channel, and we still weren't saturated. And so typically speaking, if you found something that works for you, whatever it is, beat that thing to death, as long as you're getting a 3+ return on ad spend on your marketing through your cash conversion cycle. Because every time you add something new to your business, you add complexity, you have to get used to it, you have to build systems around it. It's just not fun to add new things. That's like an easy button. Facebook ads work great for us. That's why we're not also doing pay-per-click ads and doing SEO and doing email marketing, cold email, I should say, because we've realized that we get a great return on ad spend there, and we've nowhere near tapped that out, right? The issue for us isn't that we can't spend more on there. It's that we have to make sure our capacity in terms of hiring the right talent for clients and our sales team is there. So that's another, I think, important item is, if you're already having some success with something, and that's the biggest thing that I've seen people, I mean, Tucker and I've had friends get themselves in bad spots where they're crushing it flipping or crushing it developing, and they're making a ton of money, living their dream life. And they go, maybe I should add a bunch of new shit to this. And maybe I should also go do multifamily new construction. Maybe I should also go raise money and do syndication. And that, to me, and that's a extrapolated thought process, but it's the same thought process people take to marketing, that's how their whole business operates. And it's chaotic. And they burn out or they ruin their reputation. And that practice of adding on new things, if it's already aligning with who you want to be, what you want your business to look like for no reason other than you're bored, is a bad recipe. So,
I
Tucker,
agree.
any kind of last thoughts on the whole conversation of off-market lead generation, and then I'll go and we'll wrap.
Yeah, I mean, the last point I wanted to make, and I think this is an important one, is as you begin to build your business, you bring on, a salesperson or something like that. There's nothing worse than having an office day and the phone's not ringing and there's no leads, for them to work, right? And that kills like company morale. And then, you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, you're trying to find stuff for them to do. And then that, that'll burn you out as a business owner too. So if you're building your business, you're growing it, you're bringing on salespeople or salesperson, having predictive or, being able to predict, generally how many leads are going to come into your business, each and every week. And oftentimes each and every day, using a marketing channel that allows for that. Some do better than others, really will help just kind of the overall field of business. And so like with cold calling, we know the metrics, as well as you can know them. Obviously they don't hit it every single day, but it's pretty damn consistent in terms of the amount of leads that you're going to have coming into your business. Now with direct mail, it's kind of boom bust, right? Like you send out mail, you get some calls, but you don't know how many you're going to get. And then it kind of, it wanes and it dies off. And then you have some of those days. And if you don't have a really built out, robust amount of follow-up leads for people to work, then you're going to get those twiddle your thumb days in the office, which just they're not good for morale and they're just not good for company building. So if you are looking to build a team and kind of build your business, I would say, having a lead source that is more predictable in terms of the amount of leads that can be put into your pipeline on a daily and weekly basis, it will really help you build your business faster.
Yeah. And I think my last kind of the party message on this topic is I do believe there's an ideal marketing kind of overall funnel. If you guys are trying to build a team of any kind and you guys are trying to do more than say 10 acquisitions per year, is having an inbound and outbound component. Start with an outbound component, especially if you guys haven't done 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 deals. Again, the margin of error is very low on high cost inbound leads. Have an outbound component so you have daily leads coming in, because sales teams function off momentum and they function off of reps in the seat, and you need to have a feedback loop, and outbound's a great way to get that. And then add an inbound as you grow. And the best companies, when we were at our best, the best companies I know in this business that are doing volume in terms of building a team, they're trying to do that model. They have some sort of both, to keep the outbound, to keep the lights on, to keep the sales team engaged, and then the inbound to supplement and bring those quick wins when they happen. And that I think encapsulates my theology on marketing. So thank you guys for hanging out for another podcast, another episode of the Easy Button Investor Show with Tucker and myself. I always say you are one deal away, and I say that not because you're one deal away from retiring, but you're one deal away from being closer to knowing what business you want to build, how you want to build, and I hope this show helps you do that. So if you guys do want to try cold calling, as you know, if you're listening to the show at Easy Button Investor, we have Easy Button Leads, where we do lead generation for people all around the country. And until next time, you guys, you're only one deal away. And wherever you listen, Apple Podcast, Spotify, leave us a review, give us a like, give us a shout on what you want to hear on the show, any guests, any topics. And until next time, enjoy the rest of, man, we only have a week left in February. We record these real time, but enjoy the rest of February and quarter one, and we'll see you guys next week.